Okay, so we need to, Alex is going to present some minutes for approval, I'm assuming.
Yes, so Kate and I have been working on a new approach to the minutes. So when I sent out the packet last week, I also included 2 versions of the minutes for 2 of the recent meetings that we've had. And I wanted to get your take on how those minutes looked. One of them was the standard version where we copy the staff report in and then go through the comments that staff made, and then we heard from the public. The other one summarizes the staff report without copying it and then treats everything else the same. The idea is to keep the minutes, or have the minutes reflect what was actually said in the meeting, and then have the staff reports available for reference if somebody wants to actually go through and read them. It keeps the minutes a little shorter, makes it a little easier for us to manage them. So we wanted to run this approach by you as a commission and see how you felt about it, and if it was something that you wanted us to keep doing in the future.
Anybody?
It seems more efficient, the shorter, the newer.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't have a problem with either one. Whatever works and whichever, will be
Okay.
best.
Well, since we've gone over everything anyway, I think the shorter version's good because we all pretty much, I think, know what's going on. If we don't, we're in trouble.
Okay, we can keep doing the shorter ones. So when you make your motions to approve the minutes tonight, you'll just want to specify which version you want us to
Okay.
adopt as the actual minutes. Kate called them the with summary and without summary. So the without summary is the shorter one.
Okay.
Just one question.
Mhm.
Do we ever have anybody that comes back and wants to see the exact?
We occasionally do pull out the minutes to reference what happened. The staff reports are always available anyway. So putting them in the minutes duplicates where they go.
Oh,
basically.
okay.
So we always keep the packets separate from the minutes as well. So if somebody comes in and says they want to see the minutes, we can give them the minutes that tells them how the meeting went. And if they say we want to see the packet, we still have that available.
Oh, okay.
Even outside of the minutes.
Yeah, that was the only thing that I thought of this.
Okay. So, okay, I'd like to make a motion to, I need a motion. Wow. Has it been a minute since I've been here? No, I'm not going to make a motion, but I'm going to ask for things right now.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the new shorter version of the minutes.
Do you want that to be for all 3 meetings that we had?
Yes. I'm not on one of them. Does that matter?
No.
Okay, then yes.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
Yep. Commissioner Costello,
Yes?
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Smallwood,
Yes.
and Commissioner Erickson.
Yes.
Okay, great. The minutes are approved, the new rendition of. That sounded really good. Okay, so now we're going to do what?
You just want to explain how the public hearing goes.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the public hearing. And yes, so actually Alex is going to do that. My script is gone somewhere.
No worries. We put Vice Chair Anderson on the spot tonight. So the way the public hearing will go for each of the 4 items we have tonight is we'll have staff do a presentation first where the items introduced and explained. Then the chair will open up, or the vice chair in this case, will open up the meeting to public comment. We'll take public comment, after which the commission will by motion close the public hearing. The city attorney's office will provide some input on each item, and then the commission will deliberate and make a motion. And then after the motion is made, Kate will take a vote, and then the chair will reveal the results as if it's not already apparent. Okay, so first item, Chair.
Our first item is SSM, that one? Okay. Small scale master plan and preliminary subdivision plat for 24 unit single family resident development. Jacob Wallstead, Midville Mill Investment. Alex Murphy is the planning director. Have at it.
Okay, I will. I switched it. I meant to this screen. Mhm. What? That? I can see that. Give us just a moment while we get this up on the screen properly. Yeah. No, sorry. No, it's not. It is that one. Yep. Which is weird. You're clicking through my slides. Well, it is somewhere. It's just making sure we get the right screen up on the Zoom call.
Perfect time.
Yeah. I mean, I can try and do this without pictures if you want. Jake, I can see your screen up there. All right. No pressure, right, guys? Just gonna sit here and watch IT do their work.
Right? Pressure. It's like a game show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There you go. That's what you need.
My daughter's like,
It's done.
That we'd be here in person. What? This. Oh. Mhm.
Just trying to get this to share properly.
That's what I was telling my partner.
Trying to get this screen to share properly.
Yeah.
So
It's gonna be interesting.
I was a little worried you weren't gonna make it.
So is that.
He's back on it. We could get like me talking. We just wouldn't get this screen showing up anywhere for you guys to see.
Oh, yeah? Mm-mm. Yeah, number 6, yeah. I'm actually wearing the really? Oh. Yeah, I agree.
There we go. Cool. Yeah. Give me 1 sec. Yeah. we gotta make sure Noah doesn't miss these meetings again. Okay. Thanks for your patience on that one, everybody. So this is a small scale master plan and preliminary subdivision plat request from Jacob Alstead with Garbett Homes for the Mill Phase 1. This is the first phase of the Midvale Mills project that the Planning Commission and City Council approved earlier this year. So the first phase is 24 units here on these 3 lots that you can see highlighted on 80th South. The plan is for 24 units to come out of that. The first 24 of the overall 72 that were approved for that overall project. This is about 3.5 acres in size. It has 1 of the common areas and then private streets and private lots. As far as process is concerned, as I mentioned, we had a large scale master plan approved for this project earlier this year. We're at the small scale master plan, which is required for each phase of a large scale master plan. There's also a preliminary plat included here so that each of these lots can be sold independently to private homeowners or buyers. Following this process, we'll have a final site plan that's staff reviewed and a final plat that's reviewed by the city council, and then building permits. This project does have, it's a little different from most of our master plan developments where the buyers of each lot will decide which house plan gets chosen for that lot. So we'll talk a little bit more about what that means for some of these requirements in a minute. I just wanted to point that out up front so that you're aware of it coming. And then phase 2 will happen at some point in the future. I'm sure Mr. Balstead can give you a better idea after I am done here. So here's a comparison real quick of the large scale versus the small scale plan. You can see on the left, the large scale that was approved earlier this year. We're looking at that phase 1 section that's outlined in red and highlighted with my little arrow there. Phase 2 is the bulk of the project. It will come later. On the right, you can see kind of how the layout matches the large scale master plan layout. It's just been a little more refined so that we can start looking at detailed plans for this part of the project. The large scale master plan was where we reviewed most of the major requirements. So we looked at things like parking and open space and layout at that step. This step is refining those details, making sure that we have all of the requirements still satisfied with the current plans, and then getting into a little bit more of the details where necessary so that we can ensure that as the project continues to move through the development cycle, it still continues to meet all of those standards. This one generally complies with the large scale master plan, the development agreement that went alongside it, and the zoning ordinance. So I'm going to focus on a handful of areas where we want to see just some modifications or some additional information to ensure that it continues to comply in the future. So the first one is our setback and build-to requirements. Master plan developments like this project get to define their own interior setbacks. And so on the plat, there are some setbacks defined for each lot. That's okay. The only place we're looking at setbacks is really around the exterior, the perimeter of the project. And generally speaking, all of them comply. The only area that we want to see a little clarification and cleanup on is along 80th South. There is a 25-foot setback required for this portion of the project. And as drawn on the plat right now, it's only at 18. So we got to see that moved back a little bit. And then the setback line on 80th South is also a build-to line. So the houses that are built on those 3 lots that you can see here need to be at that front setback line or within 3 feet of it. And so these setbacks and build to requirements are things that we can see addressed during the final site plan and building permits, as long as we make sure to call it out specific to those lots. And then the last thing just to point out as we go through this process is that parking for the common areas, like you can see over on the left here, is not allowed in the setback area. So we just want to make sure that that gets pushed back outside of that 25-foot setback requirement. On the architecture side, this is kind of one of the unique places when it comes to this particular master plan development. Master plan developments are required to have some certain architectural finishes. You can see here on my second bullet, the exterior finishes on the front and sides are required to be brick or equivalent for 60% or 40% of that elevation, depending on which direction they face. Street facing facades are 60, sides are 40. The plans that we have generally have the 60% front covered. The only real questions are going to be on corner lots. And since we don't know exactly which house is going to go on which lot, it's kind of hard for us to define it right now. So what we've put in here as one of the recommendations is that when we get to the building permit stage, we make sure that those standards are satisfied in each building permit for each lot, as opposed to trying to make sure it meets it today, since we don't know what is actually going to happen. And then also with those building permits, we want to see the main floor and basement floor elevations, or elevations with respect to finish grade. There are some standards here where the main floor needs to be elevated slightly above finished grade, and the basement needs to be a minimum depth below finished grade. And that's another thing where we can't deal with that right now because we don't know exactly which house is going where, and so we don't know exactly what those elevations are going to look like, but we can address that during the building permit process, and so we've called that out here. There are some things that we do want to see addressed as part of the final site plan following the small scale master plan. That includes our standard requirements for lighting. So we need a photometric plan that applies across the whole project. We need some landscape and irrigation plans for the common areas and streets. There is a street requirement as part of the subdivision ordinance that says we need to have a minimum of 1 street tree per 30 feet of frontage. So we want to make sure that that gets satisfied. And then the common areas do have some defined timelines for when they need to be installed related to when the first units get occupied. The development agreement for this project requires that common areas be landscaped or bonded before the first certificate of occupancy for the phase is issued, and then that each individual lot after that is landscaped or bonded before its certificate of occupancy is issued. So we'll have some landscape reviews that we need to do as part of that building permit process, which we'll see kind of later as tenant or as property owners start coming into the project. There's also, this particular submittal didn't include calculations for the improved or general open space requirements. We did address those during the large scale master plan over the entire project, but we want to make sure that we capture those numbers for this phase so that we can keep track of it as we continue to move through the rest of the project. And one of the challenging aspects with the numbers that we're working with here is that we're really tight on open space. So when, in the large scale master plan, the project was required to have 55% general open space. It's at 55.1, so we don't really have any room to allow additional driveway space or additional building footprints outside of what was originally anticipated. So one of the things that we want to see done with this is to have the maximum footprint for building and driveway areas defined for each lot so that we can ensure that that the project as a whole doesn't drop below that minimum open space requirement by, say, accidentally adding on a extra wide driveway or a shed or some other building that will cause issues in the future. We also want to make sure that that information is communicated to the future homeowners so they're aware. They've bought into a master plan development that has some limitations about how much building area they can put on those lots. And that is something that we'll talk about in a second as well. There's also for master plan developments a requirement for a declaration and bylaws for the HOA. So we haven't seen that yet, and we want to see that come up with that final site plan. On the subdivision plat side, this is a pretty straightforward subdivision. We've found that it generally complies with all the relevant subdivision standards. It's been reviewed by our Public Works Department, city engineer, and area fire inspector. There's been a variety of technical comments to address, but nothing that really questions the overall plat. And so we'll need to make sure that those get addressed. We do need a few additional pieces of information with the final plat, or rather before the plat gets recorded and with the final plat. That includes, there's a house on one of the existing lots that will need to be demolished before the plat gets recorded. There's a street tree requirement that I mentioned earlier with the landscaping. There's a requirement for street lights on private streets that we'll need to see is addressed. And then there's also requirements to notify the local utility companies and obtain duty to serve letters for water and sewer service. All of those are things that are typically addressed as part of the final site plan process. So we've included them as recommendations in the conditions of approval. Staff does recommend approving this project with a set of conditions here that kind of guide the rest of the review process. So in number 1 here, you can see the things that need to be submitted as part of the final site plan. That includes any of those changes necessary to address the city engineer or fire marshal responses, the setbacks, the photometric and light, landscape plans, street trees, open space calculations, including the maximum footprint for each lot, and then the HOA documents. And then with each building permit, we want to see that setbacks are satisfied around the perimeter of the project. We want to see the elevation showing the architectural or the material coverage as required based on which lot and which house are picked. And then we want to see those main and basement floor heights related to finish grade. There's also a requirement here that each lot have 4 off-street parking spaces. That was part of that large-scale master plan review. And then we want to also have a notice recorded on each title or each lot that documents these requirements so that as home buyers come in, they can see what's going on with this lot. We haven't put together what that will look like quite yet. We've been talking with the city attorney about whether that's a notice on the title or a note on the plat. So we need to continue to refine that before we finalize this process. But we want to make sure that there is that notice so that anybody that looks at purchasing in this project knows what's up. On the plat side, preliminary plats go before the city council for approval. So you'd be making a recommendation on this front. And we have kind of some standard comments here to provide the required utility notices, provide the streetlight plan, and then also remove the house that's still there before recording the plat. So I've got some motions here. Do you have any questions for me before we turn it over to the applicant? Great. Jacob.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Ballstead with Garbett Homes, 273 Northeast Capitol Street, Salt Lake City, Utah. It's good to be here in person. I only recognize most of you with the backdrop of your personal residences. So it took me a minute to recognize who you were, but happy to be here personally, and appreciate Alex's help on this project and his report. So we're looking forward to this. I don't think I have anything to add. I think Alex's presentation was thorough, but I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have. Okay. If you change your mind, I'm here.
Okay, we'd like to open it up to the public hearing now. When you come forward, please state your name and keep it short and precise and don't yell at us. Nobody for this one? Did you get an email?
No, I have not received any written comments for this item. Actually, for any of the items on tonight's agenda.
Nice. Okay, you didn't either? Nobody got anything? It's true. Somebody want to make a motion to close?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Any opposed? Yeah, now that we're all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, we don't have to do the weird roll call thing. It's so weird to not be on Zoom. Okay, the public hearing's closed. Garrett, do you have some comments?
So you're going to hear this a lot tonight. Everything that's going to come before you is going to be administrative action tonight. which just simply means we're making sure that our statute is being followed when it comes to the meeting the requirements for a small scale master plan in this case, as well as the preliminary site plan. So long as those requirements are met, or as in this case, as Alex has pointed out, there are some things that need to be further refined. We are required to approve it with those conditions and whatnot.
Okay. So can we make a motion?
On the parking that you had asked,
Mhm.
will that affect the open space?
It will just shift the parking over. The amount of open space will still be the same. It's just going to basically be relocated from like front to back.
Okay.
So
And then the setbacks on ADF?
same thing. The lots are large enough there that they can basically push the building back a little bit. So the backyards will be a little smaller, the front yards will be a little larger, but the amount of space will still be the same.
Okay. And then I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but on the black and white elevations, they do have,
Yeah, they had many of the calculations.
Yeah.
So
okay.
what we
I
need
didn't know
to,
if you-
what we need to do with the building permits is make sure that each lot is satisfying the requirements as the house plans are picked.
Okay.
So the corner lots are the most problematic ones because they have two street facing facades. We'll need to make sure that those two street facing facades have the 60%
Got
and
you.
the other two have 40. So it's something that we're just gonna have to work with as the house plans come in, which is fine.
Yeah.
We always get elevations anyway, so it's just making sure that we have the right numbers on them.
And I have only one thing. The developer, they will go along with all of the findings and that and things that need to be taken care of with Alex and that, right? And everything is understood. Okay, just making sure.
Anything else? Do you want to make a motion then?
Okay, I'll make a motion. I move that we adopt the findings and conditions of approval presented in the staff report, approving the small-scale master plan and recommending the city council approve the preliminary subdivision plat for the Mill Phase 1 project with conditions.
I'll second.
Okay,
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Smallwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Costello.
Yes.
okay, that's been approved. Let's move on to the Fort Union duplex on 50th and Fort Union Boulevard, conditional use permit for the duplex. Do we have you here? Do we have anybody else? Okay, Alex is gonna present to us as I stumble around more and more.
That's okay, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, you sound like a
When we
natural.
stumble, we'll pick it.
Yeah, a natural, that's it.
I just wanted to give you that vote of confidence. We're here for you.
Thanks.
All right, more technical difficulties.
Confused.
This one's pretty basic, so if you would like, I can just go forward without having slides up. Everything that I was going to show you on the slides is in the staff report, so you can follow along there if you'd like.
Let's do it.
All right,
I'm
Tell
the
us.
boss right now.
that'll save us some time. Okay, so this is a request from John Waller. Speaking of, is he in the meeting? Juan? Well, he told me he was going to attend electronically, so maybe he'll show up in a minute. Mr. Waller is looking for approval for a conditional use permit for a duplex on 500 East Fort Union Boulevard. It's a lot that's in our SF1 zone, single family residential with duplex overlay and 7200 South overlay. In this zone, the 7200 South overlay only applies if you're in the mixed use base zone, which this project isn't. So we're really looking at this just from the single family residential with duplex overlay perspective. That zone, the single family SF1 DO zone allows a duplex under a conditional use permit. It's a permitted use that way. This lot is about 1/3 of an acre in size. Definitely meets that minimum lot size requirement. It's located on Fort Union right next to one of the canals in the city. This is a pretty straightforward project. If you look at the site plan that's in the staff report, you'll see that it meets the setbacks all the way around. If you look at the elevations, you'll see that it meets the building height standards. Floor plans will show that it meets the parking requirements. There's just a handful of things that are a little unique to this project that I wanted to bring up for your consideration tonight. The first one, generally speaking, for projects like this, landscaping, as opposed to the master plan development we just talked about, the landscaping for this project has a little different timeline. It's required to be installed within 6 months of occupancy rather than prior to occupancy. So it's a little more flexible that way. And it's required to be across everywhere that's visible from the street. So the front and side yards normally. The driveway that's proposed is a little too wide for the zone that we're in. So it'll need to be narrowed up a bit, at least at the street side, at the curb. Once it's behind the sidewalk, it can be widened a little further. So we'll probably just need to narrow that street approach, keep the rest of it probably where it's at, and we'll be all right there. As I mentioned, the parking's already handled, so this is really just going to deal with that interface between the lot and the street. There we go. This isn't working. All right, 1 second, I'll switch to the right slide. Nope, too far. Okay. I lost my spot. One of our efforts along Fort Union is to improve the pedestrian experience. And so for all of the new projects that we have come in, we've been pushing for 10-foot sidewalks as opposed to the 4 or 6-foot sidewalks that are there. And we want to see that that's dedicated as a part of the public right of way to the city. Mr. Waller has already accounted for that in his layout here. It's a little hard to see, but on the proposed plan, there's a 10-foot sidewalk, and then the setbacks are measured from the right location for that. We just have that listed as a condition of approval so that it's clear basically why it's happening as part of this project. And then the last item to bring up is just that adjacent canal. As you can see on the survey on the left here, there is a fence line that is within the canal right of way that in effect enlarges the yard space for the property that we're looking at. We want to make sure that the canal company is okay with that fence, or have Mr. Waller put it back along the property line so that he doesn't have that fence trespass issue. So one of the recommendations here is to have him correct the fence location to match the property line, or talk to the canal company and make sure they're okay with leaving it where it's at. We haven't talked to the canal company other than that. This is a pretty basic request. It's essentially going from a single family to a 2-family house. Not a lot of change there. So the recommended conditions here, this is another one where we recommend approval, and the conditions are just to address those items that I mentioned, and then also just move on to the building permit and make sure that it's clear that we still are going to verify compliance at the building permit as well. Any questions for me? Okay.
Thanks, Alex. And the developer isn't here or online or anything?
Anybody on the call? John Waller. That's him. Looks like he's up and on. Still connecting to audio. Hey, John, thanks for joining us. I just finished my part of the presentation, so we're up to you, and you're on mute at the moment.
Thank you. I'm here.
Okay, here you go.
Ish. Does anybody have any questions for the developer?
I don't.
No. I'd like to open the public hearing. Just come forward if there are any comments. State your name. Don't all rush up. No emails, no comments, right?
No
That's what you
emails.
said.
No
Perfect.
emails for this one.
Okay.
move that we close the public hearing.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Everybody? All,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. I'm so sorry. Public hearing is closed. Garrett, do you have anything for us? Please have something for me.
So same as the last item, except that this is related to a conditional use permit. So whereas the previous ones, we were looking to make sure that it met all the requirements of the statute. Same basic idea with conditional use, other than we're making sure that any of the adverse effects that may come from this type of development are adequately mitigated. So if you found that those effects have been mitigated and they meet the requirements of the statute, you're required to approve it. If there's further mitigation you'd like to see, that's addressed at this point, be part of the conditions of approval. There's issues that have not been mitigated at all or cannot be mitigated, that would be the appropriate time to deny it.
Okay. Anybody have anything? Anybody want to make a motion? Are we at that point already?
If the canal company doesn't let him move the fence, does that affect his,
Well, he doesn't need the canal company's approval to put the fence on his property.
so he owns it?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
I don't know if I actually attached the survey to the staff report.
So are you saying it's
I
kind of
think-
inside?
Yeah, so the fence is on the canal company's side. So if he moves it back to his property line. then
Oh, okay,
he
yeah, I thought
doesn't
it was
need
going the other way.
No,
Okay, that makes
if
sense.
he wants to keep it where it's at, then he'll need canal company approval. It'd probably be easier just to move it back.
Anything else?
I will move that we adopt the findings and conditions of approval presented in the staff report, approving a conditional use permit for a duplex at 500 East Fort Union Boulevard with conditions.
I second.
Katie?
Commissioner Smallwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Costello,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow.
Yes.
Okay, great. It's been approved and welcome.
There you go, John.
Thanks, John. Okay. No, we're on number 4. Number 4 is the Mountain America Credit Union at 7013 South River Gate Drive. Amendment to a small-scale master plan for Mountain America Credit Union. Who's our presenter? Jason.
Hi, wow, everybody's
Jason.
here.
Wow.
I'm seeing some of you for the first time. What a time we're living in. This is pretty standard, so maybe we'll gain back a little bit of time through these, very straightforward. One of the things with coronavirus is you don't get to meet the applicants, so I'm not sure if the applicant's here or online, although they said that they would be in attendance. This is for a small scale master plan. It's a Mountain America Credit Union in Bingham Junction. The applicant is Shane Associates Architects, and I've received no public comments for this project, but that's understandable. It's right in the middle of Bingham Junction without any residents nearby, so. Scroll. Do I need the?
Hands over there. I gave it to Jake. I should have left it up there.
Just rolling technical difficulties, folks. Okay, so.
Sorry.
It's all right.
There's.
Yep, that's what I'm hitting. Scroll. Do I need? Yeah, it's not working. There we go. Okay. All right, here it is in blue. It's a single lot right here on 7200 South. That's Top Golf there in the right side of your screen. This is Bingham Junction zone. All new development on these lots are required by the ordinance to go through a small scale master plan. That's part of that's part of the zone requirements. There's a couple other controlling factors for this. There was a 2010 development agreement for Riverwalk West retail. There was a 2012 large-scale master plan for this. And then in 2018, just to the west, when the Burger King came in, there was a small-scale master plan for that project that incorporated the blue area. So this is a small-scale master plan amendment for this one particular parcel for Mountain America Credit Union. Okay, so here's the 2 lot that's being amended with this proposal and this request. Again, Burger King on the west, and then Mountain America Credit Union proposal for the east. So then this is the site plan, Mountain America Credit Union building there on the left meets all of our requirements for the zone. All the parking is guided and directed by previous large-scale master plan, small-scale master plans, and it does meet the parking, it meets the landscaping. You can see here there's going to be a little bit of change with the parking because this is going to be developed right next to Burger King, but they've accounted for that. And there's some pedestrian connections that meet all requirements. There's actually a little bit more parking than is required. And then there's 3 drive-through ATM units. And in 2018, both lots were approved for a drive-through, so that carries over to this lot. The landscape plan, because it was part of the original 2-lot plan, they're proposing landscaping for their particular lot, but then we are requiring them to replace any dead or missing landscape on the Burger King section. So anything that's dead or doesn't look good, we'll take a look and have them replanted. And then also with the photometric, we're going to make sure that the lighting meets code for their lot, but also for both lots because we have a total lumens across both sites. So that will also be required in the conditions of approval. Here's the elevations. There's a design thematic or a design theme from the development agreement, and this does meet at this time the height, the materials. I think it's a pretty nice looking building. And then the elevations for the ATMs. So with that, it meets all of the requirements for the zone and our standard conditions of approval then to make sure the final site plan meets all of our requirements, and they're listed there A through E. So with that, then what we're recommending is approval. Very straightforward. They're just finishing out this development on this lot. So I am not sure if anyone from Shane Associates is here or online.
We are online.
There we are. Okay. So I'll take any questions, or we can turn it over to the developer for any questions.
It's a nice looking
Yeah.
building.
I can go back if you'd like. Is this Shane online?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Remember,
I can scroll through to whatever slide you'd like to land on.
maybe just the landscape plan. I just wanted to maybe address that one item. Members of the commission, I appreciate your time this evening. Just one comment or concern was that item 1 on the condition of approval, item 1D on revising the landscape plan to include details for both sites and replacing any dead plants on the adjacent property. I guess I'm not sure how to approach that. Was there a bond in place when Burger King built their piece out that would allow you to go back and replace any dead plants on their property? I'm not sure how we would approach that in replacing plants on another property owner site.
Actually, I think Alex was the planner involved with that development.
Yeah, so this project, because it's a small scale master plan amendment, some of the standards are applied across the entire site. So we want to make sure that the landscaping and the lighting in particular are the two things that are still satisfied across both sides. If some plants have died on the Burger King side and they weren't necessary for the landscape plan to comply, then they don't really need to be replaced in that instance. But we want to make sure that we're in that final site plan review process, that we are verifying the landscape plan still complies across the entire original small scale master plan boundary. So that's really what we're trying to go for here with that condition.
Yeah, and I think it would be our intent to match the design so it's a coherent site. I'm concerned how we would replace dead plants on another property owner's site. It might be challenging. We've never been asked to do something like that. I mean, we could discuss that with them. If they've got some dead planting, ask them if they would replace it. Or I guess I had asked earlier if there was a bond in place that would allow you to have some leverage to get them to replace any dead planting material on their site.
We don't have a bond. The intent of this condition would be to ensure that it happens. So if you can convince them to take care of it, then great. But I would recommend starting first with just ensuring that your design, coupled with what's on the site on the Burger King site today, complies. So
Okay.
if it complies as is, then you don't need to do anything on the Burger King site.
And Shay and I drove by last week and I only saw one street tree that was clearly dead. So it would be a 1-for-1. And we would talk about there when you submitted the landscape
Okay.
plan for the final site plan.
Okay. Okay. I think that answers my questions. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we can open it to a public. If anybody has any comments, feel free to come up. I'm going to say no. And we didn't get anything.
Seeing none, I would move that we close the public hearing.
I would second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Garrett?
Sorry, I sound like a broken record tonight. Another small scale master plan, another administrative approval. So we're just making sure that it meets the requirements as laid out by our ordinance. If it does, we approve. If it doesn't, then we deny.
Okay. Anything else? We can make a motion.
I'll just say that I'm really excited because I bank at Mountain America and I live just down the street. So I'm really excited about this.
Zach
I'm
can
not
walk
usually
there.
very excited about a credit union or a bank, but I don't have to drive on Redwood Road, so that's wonderful. So yeah, I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move that we adopt the findings and conditions of approval presented in the staff report, approving the small scale master plan amendment for 7013 South Rivergate Drive with conditions.
I second.
Okay,
Okay. Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Costello,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
and Commissioner Smallwood.
Yes.
okay, thank you. Welcome, glad, all that good stuff. Zach's really happy. He can just walk through the drive-through.
Yep. I can finally get my debit card fixed.
Yay. Okay, our next is the Fort Union Commercial Lot 15 amended subdivision, 7210 South Union Park Avenue, preliminary subdivision plat for 2-lot subdivision, RC zone. Anderson Wallen and Associate is the applicant. Jason will be the presenter.
Hey, everybody's here. Wait a minute, we've covered this. Okay, this one's even more straightforward. Also, no public comments for this received so far, although we did send them out as required. This is in the shops. This is for a single lot. All they're doing is subdividing it. They're not proposing any new structures. They're not proposing any changes to access agreements or anything like that. And let's see, do I have control? There we go. Okay. So here, the blue area is the lot.
Now we're really seeing you.
Nice.
Okay.
Can you put his screen?
Yeah, yeah, let's see. Okay. This is a single lot and they're just subdividing it for potential future sale. There is a building there. It's where the Bed Bath and Beyond was in this lot, and they're just, I'll just keep briefing until it comes through. So the notice that we sent out has some lines through it, but those are just different taxing districts, but it is just a single lot. It's lot number 15. Last August, you all saw and the city council approved a new 22 lot subdivision. Here we go. And this is just lot 15 of that subdivision. It's about that's about 6.4 acres right now in a 55 acre shopping center. There we go. There's the picture looking south. So they're just going to kind of cut those buildings in half. And then here's the plat. Again, they do this in anticipation of commercial sale, and there's some movement in the shops, and they're selling off different areas for potential development in the future. Very straightforward. No comments from fire, engineering, or public works, and there's no changes to the original lot 15 except for this cutting out this smaller one. So you're going to be left with about a 4.7 and a 2.6 acre parcel. Here's the conditions. Anderson Wallen has done this at the shops before. They're very familiar with this. Jake Tate, who I've talked to quite often, he's already fulfilled these conditions, but this is what we came up with when they submitted the application. So with this, we are recommending approval of this 2-lot subdivision in the shops for commercial sale. And Jake Tate is online with this. Jake, we don't see you, but if you want to speak here or answer any questions, you are muted. There you go.
Yeah, no, just happy to be here. Thanks for that introduction, and just look forward to answering any questions you might have. It's a pretty straightforward subdivision, and yeah, looking forward to getting some new tenants in here.
That'd be nice. It looks pretty bad right now, so it'd be nice to have it. Sorry, I live right by it, so it's kind of like, ugh, can we do something with this? So when you do this, I mean, you're gonna just have 2 separate buildings? Explain that to me. I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, so the subdivision doesn't actually do anything to the structure of the building. It just changes where the lot lines run, and it will run down the dividing wall between 2 separate spaces. And so just allowing the one space to be sold and
Nice.
developed.
Okay. Okay, that was all. Thanks. Anybody? Okay. We're going to open the public hearing. Do we have anybody? Just state your name.
Rhonda Gurr. I live at 7240 South, 1062 East. And I talked to you last week. Did I talk to you about what they were doing, Rhonda Gurr? Oh. You called me Rhonda Hanson. So last weekend, 2 different days, people were over, I call it a dog park. So it's right behind the all the stores. And one of them was evidently the developer talking about it. And then one was an elder man that was talking about moving that white house. So you know the Pioneer House, they're talking about moving it. I didn't know any of it. And I didn't even notice the sign that they put up for this hearing. And I don't know if I got anything in the mail. I might have, but I don't remember anything. I just want to know what's going on, when it goes on. You know, from what I understand, they're going to tear down the place that they're going to buy right now or divide it and put apartments there. I hear they're going to put apartments inside all of the business area where the White House is.
I know where the White House is, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so I don't know where the rumors are coming from or why even somebody's saying it, but.
Okay.
you know, being I'm so close to it, I just want to make sure I'm on the mailing list.
Jake, do you have any idea here?
Yeah, I mean, we are not planning on taking all of the commercial down to put apartments. There is some discussion about potentially doing some multifamily. However, the house being relocated back to what you call the dog park is probably going to happen as part of that project. Nothing is set in stone at the moment, but we are in progress of trying to make some changes to the site that will allow future development. But that would be a totally separate project from this Bed Bath and Beyond subdivision. You would be noticed when that happens, if it does happen. It would be a separate notification, and yeah, we would come back in front of the commission at that time.
So there was also mention of the 7240, the road going all the way through.
Rhonda, could you make sure to speak into the mic, please?
That the road.
Really close. You have to be really
At
close.
7240 south is going all the way through. Is that something you guys are going to do?
I'm not aware of that one. That would be news to me.
Yeah, right here. She lives on a cul-de-sac, 7420.
I live in the duplex where that dog park is. I'm the only one on that road. So that's the road I'm talking about. It's 7240 south.
Yeah, I have not heard any plans of punching that through all the way. I assume it would maintain, or at least to my knowledge, it would stay as it is currently.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I do remember talking to Miss Gurr last week. It's hard when you don't
I know.
meet someone. She saw someone out on the property and they were looking around, and I think one was a surveyor, one was a developer, and they said, oh, there's apartments gonna go up here, but until we get an application, it's just talk. There has been some talk. Our community and economic development director is having talk about possibly some homes, but again, until there's an actual application, rumors and hearsay. I think she was referencing moving that county-owned historic marker, which is owned by the county. And I know that the city of Midvale is in maybe negotiations with that small county parcel right there in the middle to the north of this picture. I'm not sure where that's at, but this is just for a 2-lot subdivision for any potential future sales, but no proposed development at this time.
So when they move the White House, will you guys be involved at all, or is that just a private?
Nate, do you want to
Yeah, that's
chime in on that?
county and the cities.
Yeah, we're in negotiations now on whether that'll happen. So there's a lot of movement on whether that would happen. That White House is owned by the developers now, although it's surrounded by a county parcel. And so right now, the city and the county are just negotiating on what would happen with that parcel. And then if that's moved, I would assume that we would need a permit, and that would be
So
noticed.
Can I get on like a mailing list on when they have meetings for that, or is that just something they do and
It's
I'll know when they drag the house down the road in front of me?
it's been noticed, and it'll be noticed potentially for next week's city council meeting, in terms of whether there might be an interlocal agreement between the county and the city on that property. So that would be the first sort of thing. We don't typically send out notices on an interlocal agreement, but it would be posted on the city's website that we're going to have that.
I'll get with Wendy and get her logged on to our midvale.org site where she'll get emails, but this one was posted and mailed, and it's also on the website and stuff. But I'll make sure you know where to go to see these.
I was just gonna bring that up, is that, yeah, I think there's an option to actually get the agendas and things.
You can get email alerts.
So I think that's very important to work with Jason and have him get you signed up for that. And that way you can get agendas and you can look over them and see if there's something that strikes your fancy.
Just only in that spot.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. So Nate, is that a historic house?
It's
I
a
mean, is that-
reconstruction of a historic home.
So that's a big no then.
It's not historic.
protected.
It's, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? Okay, let's close the public hearing. All in favor?
Wait.
Oh, I need a motion. Somebody, I'm way ahead of the game.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. Garrett, do we need to hear from you again?
I'm sorry, and we can silence me the rest of the meeting after this. This is a subdivision, so we're just making sure it meets the requirements of the statute. If it does, we need to approve it.
Anything? Any motions?
I don't have it up.
Present. Motions. Come on, make a motion. Let's go.
Okay.
Any motion?
Fine, I'll make it again. I move that we forward a recommendation to the Midvale City Council to approve the 2-lot preliminary plat for the Fort Union Commercial Lot 15 amended subdivision at 7210 South Union Park Avenue with the findings and conditions of approval presented in the staff report.
Second.
Okay,
Yes, Commissioner Costello.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
It's okay. Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Smallwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson.
Yes.
perfect. Thank you. Looks like you're set. Thank you. Okay, next,
All right.
we've
So,
got a staff update, upcoming meetings and projects.
yeah.
Alex,
So we are going to have a special meeting, another meeting in June as a special meeting. We're going to have a couple of text amendments to talk about. Candy mentioned she's going to be gone again for that meeting. So Robin, you'll be in charge again.
so much pressure. At least I got some notice this time.
Yeah, there's just 2 text amendments that we're working with. One of them is one of the legislative update items.
ADUs?
It's not ADUs.
Oh.
It's noticing. It's a little more straightforward than ADUs. And then we have another text amendment for Jordan Bluff.
ADUs?
No. That's going to be the next one. I
Okay.
just don't know exactly when it's going to happen.
Okay.
We still have things moving along. We've got lots of projects under construction, under review. If you've been out to Jordan Bluffs lately, you've probably seen that the Zions building is
It's huge.
Yeah.
quick. It's pretty big.
Cool.
They've got
It is cool.
glass going up, so it's actually turning into a building. We just finished interviewing, well, we're wrapping up interviews for the Planner 1 position, Jana's replacement. So we'll hopefully have somebody starting in that role in the next few weeks. My goal was July 1st, and we'll see what happens. So that's kind of where we're at. Were there any topics or anything that you
Yes.
wanted to ask me about?
So what's going on with the Walker Bank corner? Used to be Walker Bank and the Mexican restaurant and
Is that the one like
on the corner.
on the corner over here?
70.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's going on?
So the person that bought that property most recently is
So it wasn't the one guy that several years,
No.
a couple of years ago.
no new guy bought it this year.
Okay.
He's trying to determine if he can salvage the building or not.
Mm.
So he's been working on the exterior basically to see if it's worth saving, and then also trying to figure out if the inside is worth saving. For those of you that might not be totally familiar with that building, it is close to occupancy at the moment due to some building code issues, and so
'Cause it
Oh,
has
is it the
basement.
corner right here
Yeah.
on Main?
yes.
Oh,
there-
that fun one.
There
Yes.
was some unpermitted work done in the basement that
A little bit.
resulted in the building being close to occupancy. So,
Dawn showed me the pictures.
It seemed pretty safe to me.
so we're working with the owner as much as he wants us to see if he can turn it into something.
That'd be cool.
The last thing he told me was maybe a restaurant, but
Yeah.
also maybe a tear down rebuild.
Yeah.
You know, that is what is
That's a
so
classic
sad
building.
because many, many years ago, it was called the Mint.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was, you know, and
Oh,
it was a fine dining restaurant. And after that, it just, you know, it's been
Could be
sad to
cool
see
on the
that.
form-based. Doing the corner.
Yes, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's why I'm quite excited to see what's gonna.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
I've got a project coming with a flower patch right on my corner across from Hillcrest. It's looking beautiful.
Yeah, the North Union Apartments, they are moving right
Really
along.
looking nice.
Yeah, they said, so I actually talked to the developer for that project. That's the one on between North and South Union on
Right,
9th East. They were telling me that they expect to start delivering units in April of next year. They wanted to try and do it sooner because they're going to have the apartment part done before the townhouse part. That's a, if you remember from when we presented it, it's an apartment building wrapped in townhomes. So the townhomes just started going up very recently. The apartments are looking real good.
It's really pretty.
So yeah, they said probably spring of next year is when they'll start leasing those out.
Unlike 30s and 7200,
Those ones are also leasing out.
are they free?
They're like $2,000.
What happened with
Hideous.
the Center Street rezone? Did that go away?
It did not.
Okay.
There's been some code enforcement issues with one of the buildings involved, and we've also been working behind the scenes to prepare a development agreement for the council to consider. So we have a few things that have caused it to move a little slowly. It was originally scheduled for council review this month, but we pushed it off. And so it's really tentatively scheduled for next month, but we're waiting to see how some of these code enforcement issues work out first.
What's the date of our next meeting?
Our next meeting is on the 23rd, June 23rd.
So on moving the house, are they still kind of thinking up there to the water,
What do you mean?
the weed field?
Oh, Nate,
Oh,
do you know where that, so is,
where's the house going?
yeah, where's the house going to be moved to?
It's still unclear right now.
Unofficial, where are
The-
they thinking of?
The latest thinking is that it might stay on site and just be moved over a little bit and maybe made more historic. It's,
Every day it gets.
In a few years, it'll be really historic.
yeah, it's, the way it's constructed now, it's not really feasible to move it. So they would have to, whatever happens to it, if it's not in its current location, it'll have to be rebuilt. If they rebuild it, they're considering rebuilding it more historic to what a house might have looked like there. So we'll see. There's a lot of, it's in flux quite a bit from day to day right now. So we'll see where that ends up.
So Alex, before I was here, wasn't there an easement issue behind Bed Bath and Beyond? Like years and years ago?
I'm not sure. The plat didn't seem to suggest any issues this time or last time. That building was built later than everything else in the shopping center. So I don't know. I mean, that's something we can look into, but I'm not aware of anything.
Sweet.
Be nice to have something different in there, something that was open and maybe stayed open.
Yeah.
Or we could have a Halloween store. I'm always game for that.
Okay, well,
Thanks.
Back to you.
We're adjourned.
we need a
Oh,
motion
we
to
need to
adjourn.
have a motion to adjourn. You know, I'm just hell on wheels today. You guys just need to leave me alone. Make a motion.
I move that we adjourn at 7:11 PM.
All in favor?
Aye.
No. All, any opposed?
Yeah, you don't have,
Really?
yeah, you don't
Why?
ask for any.
We don't need a second either?
Nope.
We
Right.
just go
Because
home
I was
now.
gonna
Yep,
second.
we're adjourned.
Nice, we're adjourned. Thanks.
Yeah, those
Thanks
ones.
for letting me bumble through that.
Just like that.
Weird ones, like the motion to adjourn is where you just
Yeah.
check for people that oppose, and then you're done. You don't need a second. You don't.
Oh, good. I'm so sorry. I'll work on my next
You know,
one.
I would have said no.
Make things a lot harder.